Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming on a stormy night. Appreciate it. I'm Brendan Smith. I'm the Arts and Humanities Coordinator for this. We good? All right. Maybe I'll start over. Thanks for coming out tonight. We're recording this, so it'll go on YouTube so other folks can see it as well. My name's Brendan Smith. I'm the Arts and Humanities Coordinator for the City of Takoma Park. This is one of the many free events in our Takoma Park Arts Series, which includes poetry readings, art exhibitions, film screenings, lectures, theater, concerts. So if you want to check out some more of our events, you can sign up for our e-newsletter, which if you go to tacomaparkmd.gov/arts, there's more info about our events and sign up for the e-newsletter there. So we're excited about this poetry reading tonight called The Poetry Migration, focusing on poets who are immigrants or have experiences of immigrating to the United States from other countries and sort of how they've dealt with sort of the forces of assimilation versus maintaining their own cultural heritage. And so we've got four poets, Fernando Gudiel, Stella Mejía, Indran Amirthanayagam, and Francisco Rodriguez. And we're going to start with Fernando Gudiel. He was born in New York in 1973. Then he immigrated to Guatemala in 1980, and then he returned to the United States about 23 years later in 2003. He's published 3 books of his poetry and a collection of his short stories. Thanks you all for coming, and Fernando, step right up.
Thank you, Brendan, for the invitation. Thank you for the Community Center of Takoma Park. I don't take this lightly. Thank you very much. So even though I born in New York City, I really feel like I'm a stranger in this country because I never have the opportunity to live here, so many years. So even I have to relearn English. So it was a little tough for me to assimilate to this new culture. One of the books I'm writing right now, one of the themes is immigration. I'm still looking forward to probably finish it like in a couple of months. And the name of the book is going to be Demonio de la Memoria. I'm going to speak in this one in Spanish. There's a little excerpt of that. It's a novel. Rogelio duerme y ronca como el sonido de un viejo camión que acarrea una carga de alfombras persas. En conjunto con el maullido de los gatos en celo, jugando en la terraza bajo la luz de la luna. Las sirenas de ambulancias y policías que lloran y no paran de llorar, más el grito de los borrachos en las calles. No me dejan dormir. No puedo dormir con toda esta bulla. Me imagino que millones no pueden dormir pensando, ¿qué irá a pasar con las leyes de inmigración? ¿Qué irá a pasar con tantas personas que han vivido en este país por muchos años? Personas honradas y dignas que han trabajado arduamente para dar una mejor calidad de vida a sus hijos. Personas que han pagado sus impuestos y de todas maneras viven con el temor a ser deportados. Son tantas las familias resquebrajadas, casos insólitos donde los hijos nacidos en este país han sido separados de sus padres. La incertidumbre es abrumadora. Pareciese como si los entes gubernamentales no tuviesen un verdadero interés en solucionar el problema. Como es de esperarse, este tema siempre sale a la luz pública, más en tiempos de elecciones presidenciales. So here I'm just mentioning that the government actually, they haven't done anything, and only when it's election time, they talk about it. And of course, because they're looking for both for the Latino community. And that's one of the things that I criticize here. This one I wrote it kind of a little, I wrote it last night actually. It came to my head because we were talking about immigration. And because I'm writing as well in other characters, and I have this character who migrated, so kind of like translate a little bit what from Spanish. So I call it feathers. Brand new day, clouds are gray, future uncertain, luggage prepared to travel to an unknown place, hoping to find a place to belong and make it our home, dreaming to find a light at the end of the tunnel. Brand new day, a castaway, so alone, rowing a boat to travel to an unknown place, hoping to find a flock of seagulls flying over the sea, dreaming to find a land that seems to be near. We are just feathers blowing in the wind, looking for a dream. Millions of people trying to find a new horizon, a place to belong. Some of us can be big winners in this fight. Some of us can be big losers. Trying to reach the light at the end of the tunnel. Some of us can make it. Others stay in the middle of the road. Dreams blow away and never find a way. We are just feathers waiting where the wind will take us. Fate keep us awake and we keep dreaming. And this one is in Spanish, but I call it yellow and red. Yellow because the news, we call it amarillistas in our countries, and red is because too much violence. And the poem says, I'm going to say it in Spanish. La primavera es una hoja de papel amarillento habitada por miles de hormigas que transitan entre la serenidad y el caos, acarrean la piedra, sobrellevando las migajas de pan, transportando la basura de todos los días. La vida de cada hormiga en la abrumada primavera se escribe con tinta roja, trazos escarlata de color pasión, empuñadura del deseo, coraje del amor, el fuego del peligro y la sangre. And by the way, this is from my book, Ritual Rojo de Primavera. And the first book of poetry that I wrote was Lágrimas de Pájaro Cautivo. And this is like most of is Guatemala. And we call it Guatemala is the eternal spring. So I call it Primavera Marchita. That's the name of the poem. Agobiada por sucias manos, maltratada como una ramera, paulatinamente se corrompe la mente, se marchita la primavera. Las alimañas carcomen la esperanza, ciegan enloquecidamente la razón, el egoísmo, el odio son los placeres de los pobres de corazón. Primavera marchita, no sé percibir tu mirada en la oscuridad, no sé distinguir las voces de la verdad. Sin encontrar guía, ahora estás en tinieblas. Ya quisieras despertar de esta cruda y triste realidad. Primavera marchita, mi bella primavera se marchita. Los ángeles nunca llegarán a comprender, cegada en su miseria sin saber qué hacer. Ahora deambula por las carreteras empedradas de la desolación, aquí yacerán sus restos en el lago de la desilusión. And I have another one that is the quetzal, that is the bird of Guatemala. And I'm talking about here about how people feel like they're slaves. Like, no slave, but I mean like they don't live like a real, it's a fake liberty because people are living, they cannot go out of their houses because they don't know if they're going to return home. The violence is crazy there. A un quetzal. No concibo pensar el por qué te escondes. ¿Acaso es grande el dolor que guardas en el pecho? Te camuflas como radiante verdoso helecho, como un fugitivo orbitando en los bosques. Cantos, llantos, voces a los que ya no correspondes. ¿Acaso aún temes al poder de la mano cruel? Que han convertido a tu bella tierra en un burdel, donde abundan malditos e inescrupulosos ladrones. Ojalá y realmente puedas tu vuelo alzar, más alto que el cóndor y el águila real, acariciar el cielo y el arcoíris saborear, De lo contrario, tu alma no dejará de agonizar ante el eco de malévolas carcajadas de quienes escupen hasta en cajas mortuorias, y jamás has de encontrar la gloria si tienes totalmente las alas resquebrajadas. Tu tierra tienen en total calamidad. Ya no temas, hermoso pájaro serpiente, con todo tu aliento en forma estridente, grita, grita por tu verdadera libertad. Thank you. Gracias.
Great, thanks so much, Fernando. So next up, we have Francisco Rodriguez, who's from Peru. He moved to the United States about 20 years ago and just published a new book of poetry. And I believe Fernando may help him somewhat as far as translation if he wants to describe sort of what some of his poetry is about. And you don't have to, you can just stand straight. You don't have to bend over the mic.
I am Francisco Rodriguez. I'm very friendly. My friend says Paquito. I like it. I am from Peru. I born in city of Cajamarca City. Cajamarca is in the mountains, on the Andes mountains. Is up and down. Is the name of my book is Entre Rivers and Quebradas, up and down. I looking, I children, I looking other rivers. I like other rivers in my country. I come in United States. I look see Potomac. I love Potomac. I go, my granddaughter, I go in the mornings, I look in there. I am very happy. It's very happy, my spirit. I remember my country. I have a new country in the United States. Sorry, I not translate my poem. I reading is the poem is the translate is the Río de Verano or River in the summer.
That's okay.
Okay. Baja lentamente con el sonido del tiempo. En la ribera las piedras suenan unas con otras. Clara, transparente, el agua lleva cierta melancolía que deja mirar al pasar. Así son en verano cantarinas tranquilas. El sol y las hojas se reflejan como si fueran miles de espejos. Entonces las miro. Van pasando las aguas del verano que llevan su transparencia por el destino del cauce. Va pasando el tiempo, como pasan las aguas, quedan los lechos vacíos o llenos según la estación. Tiempo de sequía, tiempo de espera, cauces vacíos. Así son los tiempos, días de sol y sin lluvia. Va por el río la transparencia, va por el río las soledades, van por el río los últimos atardeceres sin regreso, solamente se van. Las tomas sin agua, sin riego las mieses. Esperando los tiempos que pasen sin olvido, sin recuerdo, como pasan las aguas del verano que tienen en el tiempo la espera. Thank you. Hay un poema que lleva título Cuchalito. Is the name is a specific name. No es original in Spanish. Is the word Cuchalito is previous or Spanish. Is of native word Cuchalito. In the mountains, people is walking. People need helping. Other people say, please, you need water, you need eat, please, okay, I have for you. No pay, it's only services. Is the name Cuchalito, is the culture of the people on the Andes. Is dedicated for my friend Rafael Amorós, other poet. Acá, juntando piedras para hacer tulpas, chamisas recogiendo para hacer fogones, leñas están mojadas, llega nomás, siéntate en aquel pollo, vaya a ser que estés cansado. ¿Qué? ¿Traes penas? De a poco las contarás. Es que el tiesto anda medio quebrado para todas esas canchas. Cuéntame nomás. No faltará Cuchalito, que ni hambre traes, que te duele la pena. Dolores siempre hay, esperanzas siempre se pierden. Tarde ya, el solcito se ha ido. Quiere llegar la oscurana. ¿Qué cuesta tener encendido el fogón? Y tu pena ya es la mía, pero ya no tengas pena. Solito recogió su poncho, solito del pollo hizo su cama, solito en la mañana, solito se fue, solito ya sin su pena, que en el fogón la quemó. Gracias. Thank you.
Great, thanks so much, Francisco. Next up, we have Luz Stella Mejía. She's a writer, editor, and former marine biologist from Colombia. She has written 2 books of poetry, and she's an editor in her publishing house, Tesayata, and she collects Spanish language books to share with the Hispanic community here in the DC area. Welcome, Luz.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Brendan, and the Takoma Park Community Center. And thank you very much for being here in this reading. I'm going to read in Spanish and translate it in English, every poem. So the first poem I'm going to read is this, from this book. The book name is Palabras Sumergidas. That means like a submerged words. Maybe because I'm a marine biologist. And so the first poem is called El Viaje. No quieres esperar que la lluvia lave la sangre de las calles sucias. No quieres tener que defenderte en curtidas batallas patriarcales, ni ser medida por el hondo de tu escote. A lo lejos, el amor llama. Bamboleas la maleta ingrávida en tus manos, tan llena de proyectos, ideas y sueños. Llegas desmedida y exuberante, no cabes en la visa. Las singularidades deben ser podadas. Te recortan el nombre, te mutilan la lengua, talan tus raíces, te ciegan. Sacas los sueños y proyectos, tienes que hacerle campo a tus pedazos y continúas tu viaje arrastrando el plomo de tus muertes. The journey. You don't want to wait for the rain washing the blood off the streets. You don't want to have to defend yourself in established patriarchal battles, nor be measured by the depth of your cleavage. In the distance, your love calls. You sway your weightless suitcase in your hands, so full of projects, ideas, and dreams. You arrive boundless and exuberant. You don't fit in the visa. The singularities must be pruned, your name cut off, your tongue must be maimed, your roots cut down, you must be mown down. You take out your dreams and projects to make room for your pieces and continue the journey dragging the lead of your deeds. Thank you. Now for this book is called Etimológicas, that's etymological, and this was published in 2021. I'm gonna read a poem called Nostalgia. Del griego nostos, regreso a casa. Del indoeuropeo nos, volver a salvo a casa. Y del latín algia, dolor. ¿Cómo volver a salvo al lugar de la infancia? No es posible, solo existe en la memoria, en la mía que recorre a solas el mapa del pasado, o tal vez solo sueña que recuerda. En la ilusión de la nostalgia, mi deseo traza una nueva ruta cada noche, con la urgencia de evocarme amada y salva. ¿Cómo regresar a la tierra de los sueños? Tal vez no quiero volver, sino inventarnos juntos ese país futuro. La nostalgia es infinita, no es dolor de patria ausente, es duelo del regreso imposible. Nostalgia. From Greek nostos, return home. From Indo-European nos, returning home safely. And from Latin algia, pain. How do we return safely to our childhood place? It is not possible. It only exists in the memory, and just in mind that travels along the map of the past. Or maybe it only dreams of remembering. In the illusion of nostalgia, my desire traces a new path every night, with the urge to evoke myself loved and safe. How do I return to the land of my dreams? Maybe I don't want to go back, but to create that future country together. Nostalgia is endless. It is not the pain of the absent homeland. It is a grief of the impossible return. Este se llama, the name of this one is Lot o su mujer. Qué difícil tener que hablar del tiempo. Qué calor hace sonreír, esta humedad. Me preguntan que si el cabello, que el maquillaje. No puedo responder si zapatos o sandalias, cuando tengo en mi cabeza botas marchando y pequeños pies descalzos. Qué difícil no poder mirar atrás a mi país en llamas. Ser estatua incólume de sal, cuando adentro solo mar, solo lágrima. Lot or his wife. How hard it is to talk about the weather. It is hot today. To smile, this humidity. They ask me about my hair. How about your makeup? I can't say shoes or sandals when I have in my head marching boots and kids' bare feet. How hard it is being unable to look back at my country on fire, being a statue made of salt, unscathed, when inside there is only sea, only tears. This one, his name is Tierra. Tierra es allí donde nacimos, pedazo desmenuzable de suelo matrio, terruño donde un hogar nos cobijó primero, país feliz o triste de nuestra infancia, territorio seco nadando entre mares, hermoso planeta agua que nos soporta y un día nos echará de sus dominios, como un enjambre de nautilos silúricos, como a un cardumen de peces acorazados, como a una horda de subvalorados dinosaurios, como a una manada de dientes de sable. Somos el sexto intento fallido de inteligencia. La tierra se sacude, como quien desilusionado de sus retoños menea la cabeza en un gesto triste. The name of this poem is Tierra, that in Spanish means earth and also land. And it's from Latin terra, that means not submerged part, land, not submerged part. Tierra is where we were born, crumbly piece of motherland soil, native land where a home first sheltered us, happy or sad country of our childhood, dry territory swimming between seas, beautiful water planet that supports us, and one day will throw us out of his dominion, like a swarm of Silurian nautilus, like a school of armored fish, like a horde of underrated dinosaurs, like a pride of saber-toothed tigers. We are the sixth failed attempt of intelligence. The earth quakes, like someone disappointed of her offsprings, shakes her head in a sad gesture. The next one is an unpublished poem. Actually, I wrote it in English, so I'm going to read it first in English and then a translation in Spanish. The name is ESL, English in the sótano of my lengua. Sometimes I wake up with my English in the basement, so I have to go down twisting dark stairs, fumbling for the words that are hidden between old radios, broken furniture, and moldy mirrors. I find boxes of old costumes, and I stumble upon the Robin Hood's hat, the mask of the Phantom of the Opera, or Hamlet's skull. But I can't find the everyday things. The words that I need in my day are hidden in dark corners. Suddenly, I heard a squeak and some light steps that cross in front of me. But I don't see the words slip through the cracks. So I sit in the cold floor with a piece of cheese waiting for them. En español sería ESL, English en el sótano de mi lengua. A veces me despierto con mi inglés en el sótano y entonces tengo que bajar por escaleras tortuosas y oscuras para buscar a tientas las palabras que se esconden entre radios viejos, muebles rotos y espejos mohosos. Encuentro cajas de disfraces antiguos y me topo con el gorro de Robin Hood, la máscara del fantasma de la ópera o la calavera de Hamlet. Pero no encuentro los utensilios cotidianos. Las palabras que necesito en el día se esconden en rincones oscuros. De pronto escucho chillidos y unos pasos ligeros que cruzan frente a mí, pero no veo las palabras escurrirse entre las grietas. Entonces me siento en el suelo frío con un trozo de queso a esperarlas. This one I wrote it for my country, Colombia. It's always in war there, so it's very sad. And last year was a big protest. I don't know if you see also in the news, a big protest in the streets for months, and the government did nothing, mostly send the police and kill a lot of people. So I wrote this poem. In Spanish, the name is Tierra Feroz. Quisiera dejar de evocarte en mis poemas, matria triste, pero a la hora del recuerdo, en la quieta duermevela de mis noches, eres tú quien se impone. Cuando mi corazón amanece en la montaña, se escurren mis nostalgias en tus cerros, y vislumbro mi infancia persiguiendo colores, pero el estallido de las bombas revienta la memoria y prefiero la amnesia. Cuando el día nos tortura en su tórrido abrazo, me recuesto en la siesta y se mecen mis sueños en hamacas perdidas entre robles y palmas, pero ráfagas de desaparecidos me velan con sus ojos abiertos. Cuando el canto del agua me guía a sus entrañas, me siento en la orilla a buscarte en el tiempo. Nado rememorando tus corrientes, donde mi vida se sumergió en dulzura. Pero baja flotando tu nombre en roja espuma, mutilado en sus sílabas. Eres mi paisaje permanente, la película de mi infancia velada por el duelo, y el rugido de guerra como banda sonora. Es tan difícil amarte en la distancia, cuando quiero mirarte y solo veo el monstruo que te habita. Fierce Land. I would like to stop evoking you in my poems, sad motherland. But at the time of remembrance, in the quiet slumber of my nights, it is you who prevails. When my heart downs on the mountain, my nostalgia sleeps on your hills, and I glimpse my childhood chasing colors, but the explosion of the bombs bursts the memory, and I prefer amnesia. When the day tortures us in a torrid embrace, I lie down for a nap, and my dreams rock in lost hammocks between oaks and palms, but bursts of missing people watch over me with their eyes open. When the song of the water guides me to its entrails, I sit on the shore looking for you in memories. I swim remembering your currents, where my life was submerged in sweetness. But your name floats down in red foam, mutilated in its syllables. You are my permanent landscape, the movie of my childhood veiled by morning, and the roar of war as a soundtrack. It is so hard to love you in the distance, when I want to look at you, and I only see the monsters that inhabits you. And this one is the last one. The name is Emigrar. Cuando me fui, no sabía que debía desnudarme del pasado, lavarme de recuerdos y nostalgias en el río de la ausencia. Toda mi vida anterior se quedó en la otra orilla, y llegué sin testigos de mi infancia. Nadie que dé cuenta de mis días de columpio, de mi tiempo de árbol, de nido, de nube. No puedo convocarles, preguntarles. Debo fiarme de mis propias historias con sus grietas, ruidos y silencios. Y cuando un olor me trae la fruta y enredado en su rastro la memoria, mi impulso es preguntar riendo, ¿se acuerdan? Y un golpe de tristeza me anuncia que aquí lejos solo puedo recordar a solas. El momento me dicta un poema y se va. Me he quedado sin nadie que se acuerde de mí. Emigrate. When I left, I did not know that I should strip from the past, wash away memories and nostalgia in the river of absence. All my previous life stay in the other shore, and I arrive without witnesses of my childhood. No one to account for my days as a swing, of my times as a tree, as a nest, as a cloud. I cannot summon them, ask them. I must trust my own story with its cracks, noises, and silences. And when a smell brings me the fruit and tangle in its trail the memory, my impulse is to ask, laughing, "Do you remember?" And a stroke of sadness tells me that far away I can only look back in solitude. The moment dictates a poem to me and leaves. I've been left with no one who remembers me. But thank you.
Thank you, Luz. And last but not least, we've got Indran Amirthanayagam. He was born in Colombo, Ceylon, now Sri Lanka. He writes in a bunch of languages: English, Spanish, French, Portuguese, and Haitian Creole. He's published 20 poetry books, and he edits Beltway Poetry Quarterly. Indran?
Thank you so much, Brendan, for the invitation and to the Takoma Park Center and the chance to read with you, Luz, Stella, and with Fernando, and with all of it. It's a lovely opportunity. I've actually published 22 books. I've brought most of them with me. I can't stay away from them. They're my children, along with my two biological children who I love dearly, but I also love these. Anyway, I'll begin with a poem in French, and I'll just give a rough translation, and then I'll read a poem in Spanish and from a new book called Isleño, which is selected poems in Spanish published by Real Editores, and then I'll read some more poems in English on this theme of the poetry of migration. I'll tell you a little story first. A.K. Ramanujan wrote a blurb for my first book, The Elephants of Reckoning, back in 1993. And he said in the blurb, a welcome addition to the poetry of migration. And that phrase stayed with me, and I've been obsessed about it ever since. And a great poet and a translator who passed away, sadly, some months after leaving me that blurb on my answering machine in New York at the time. And I transcribed it for the publisher. Anyway, le pays à côté. Viens avec moi, la porte est ouverte, la citerne pleine, et il y a toute une île pour explorer, un univers dont la mer est sur la terre. Mais en même temps, répondit la question, pour combien de temps? Un mois, un an, une vie? Et si le chat a 9 vies, pourquoi pas l'homme à l'étranger, de pays en pays jusqu'à l'arrivée au pays sans chapeau, la rue de l'enterrement dans le cœur du nid en centre-ville? A rough translation: the country beside you, come with me. The door is open, the gas tank full, and there's a whole island to explore, a universe in the sea and on the earth. But at the same time surges the question, for how much time? A month, a year, a life? And if the cat has 9 lives, why not man, abroad, moving from country to country until he arrives at the country without a hat, the street of burial, in the heart of the knot, in the center of the city. In Haiti, le pays sans chapeau, the country without a hat, is where you go after you leave this particular life, you see. So that's why I'm always with a hat on, holding on bitterly to this life. So le pays sans chapeau, the country without a hat. And now I'll read from The Migrant States, which came out during the pandemic, as did Suli Nostalgic. And as you know, books that came out during the pandemic were introduced via Zoom and live in the virtual world somewhere. But they actually exist physically. They're actually here in my hand. And in some, a couple of poems from The Migrant States. Recalling Sunday. I fought the blues on so many Sundays, I've lost count of hours frittered away in sifting through the past to understand why I carry a peculiar strain of melancholy that pierces all activity and must in the end be endured, tempered by the mass, a story shared at evening with my daughter, a cricket game relived fondly when far removed from the pitch, and dare I say it, in company of that bitch life, who does not spare even Sunday to poke a dagger into memory. And then the migrants reply, as written, of course, when the wall was being built on the border, the southern border. The migrants reply, we have been running for so long. We're tired. We want to rest. We don't want to wake up tomorrow and pack our bags. We have gone 10,000 miles. We have boarded a rowboat, tugboat, bus, freight train. We have a cell phone and some bread. Our eyes are dry. Our breath needs washing. What next? You're putting up a wall on your southern flank? What an irony. The country that accepts refugees does not want us. We qualify. We have scars, and our host governments hunted at least some of us. The rest fled in fear. Gangs do not spare even the children. White vans took away our uncles, our cousins. Do you think they've been made into plowshares? Aye, what are you saying? Too easy to wear our hearts in these words, in slings on our faces, furrowed, perplexed. What happened to kindness to strangers? Why do we have to be herded like prisoners held in a holding camp? We are human beings, and like you, in safer countries, we have the same obligation to save ourselves and our children. Oh, the children, look at them. Give them food and school and a new set of clothes. Give them a chance. Whether you are red or blue, the eye of the hurricane does not discriminate. We are your tumbling weeds, hurling cars, flooding banks, and we are diggers of the dikes. We can teach you so many languages and visions. You would learn so much. You would never, ever say, lock us up. As I'm reading that poem talking about a better life and school and so on, I mean, we're living in this moment of chaos, right? I mean, in the United States, where no place is safe for our children, for any of us. And yet we have 400 million guns available to us to keep us unsafe. I've been writing about this, but I don't have the poems right in front of me, but it's on our minds, it's on our collective mind. Tonight, President Biden is speaking about this while we read our poems. So let's do something. Let's try, do our best to pass some restrictions, some rules to control the trafficking of guns, the selling of automatic weapons to teenagers, and so on and so forth. En pocas palabras todo. I'll read now from Blue Window, which is a book I wrote in Spanish, Ventana Azul. And it was translated by Jennifer Rathburn into English, and so I'll read her translations into English as well. En pocas palabras todos. Sometimes as a poet you try to write everything you know in just a few words, and I hope I've captured some of what I know in these three lines. En pocas palabras todos. Nacen, crecen, se enamoran, se decepcionan, sobreviven, se enamoran, sobreviven, se alegran, dejan de crecer, disminuyen, se mueren. In a few words, everyone is born, grows, falls in love, is disillusioned, survives, falls in love, survives, is happy, stops growing, diminishes, dies. And I'll read one other poem from Blue Window. It's a book I'm very close to. I mean, it's a book of love poems. And you know, there's a long tradition, I guess, of writing love poems. So I'm just joining the bus, you know, in 2022. But and talking about buses and trips, this one's called Viaje, trip. Estamos de viaje, cada uno por su cuenta, tú hacia la montaña, yo al mar, tú con nuevos amigos y con tiempo para reflexionar, yo a ver a mi hija el fruto del pasado y a unos amigos todavía en este lado del mar. No sé qué provecho sacar del contraste, montaña, mar, amigos nuevos, una hija alta y bella, casi una adolescente a punto de despegar. ¿A dónde? ¿A una nueva ciudad? ¿Al futuro que le espera otra vez sin el padre? A mí no me gusta lo impermanente y darme cuenta del límite de la costa. ¿Qué opciones me quedan? No regresar, no dar algún consejo a este ser vivo al que ayudé a caminar, guardar el silencio cuando cada memoria quiere hablar. Trip. We're on a trip, each one of us on our own, you towards the mountain, I to the sea. You with new friends and time to reflect, I to see my daughter, fruit of the past, and a few friends still on this side of the sea. I don't know how to take advantage of the contrast, mountain, sea, new friends, a tall and beautiful daughter, almost an adolescent, ready to take off. Where to? A new city, to a future that awaits her again without her father. I don't like the impermanent and realize the limits of the coast. What options are left for me? Not return, not give some advice to this living being whom I helped teach to walk, keep silent when every memory wants to talk. And yes, poetry is often melancholic and so on, but I want now, did I read this poem, Oda alla Mangosta? No, I don't think so. So just on a lighter note, because I think there are different traditions in poetry in all the languages. And in Spanish, there's one that's represented, I think, by Pablo Neruda, for example, and there's another that's represented by Nicanor Parra, who wrote Antipoesia. And both of those are somewhere in this poem, Oda a la Mangosta. En Abidjan, un hombre me trajo una mangosta a casa. Quise comprar el roedor, guardarlo como mascota. Mi esposa me negó, le negó a la mangosta. Ahora me quedo sin esposa y sin mangosta. So, Ode to the Mongoose, I'll translate it roughly. In Abidjan, a man brought a mongoose home. I wanted to buy the rodent, keep him as a pet. My wife said no to the mongoose. Now I'm left without a wife and without a mongoose. Based on some true story, but modified somewhat. And she loved the poem, actually, so my former wife, but she did appreciate the poem. And Neruda grew up lived in Ceylon, where I'm from, as a young diplomat, and he had a pet mongoose, and he used to walk the beach with his mongoose. So, and I'll finish with a couple of poems from. I'll read one poem from this book, Coconuts on Mars, and then I'll finish from the new book, 10,000 Steps, 2 short poems from there. The poem from Coconuts on Mars is called Living Will. So 3 more poems to go. Living Will, and then 2 from 10,000, and then we'll take all questions, if we want to take questions. Living Will. One day I will sit down with my soul and write that I've loved every bird that flew, every monkey on the branch, every elephant charging through the grass. I will say I love you as much as the baby gecko scampering past my foot, the snake rustling under the wood cut and stacked in my yard. I will say I have loved every creature, every song, every turn in the road, and I will be lying with my eyes open and my eyes closed. I'm not God. I'm not even the dog loyal to his master who misses him blind like his daughter in Lima, which I call at night until the next time we meet in dreams via chat, cheek to cheek, remembering always that in paradise there are no trains or roads or seas or death, no going away, no arriving, doors and garden open, souls who come and go, smiling, and all the angels, all birds, all dolphins, all men and women, and song dancing, and why not reciting the Song of Solomon, the epic poems, the love songs that consoled when we set off on the roads, hopped on trains and aeroplanes, got caught in traffic, in our head, said goodbye before saying hello. Did I know you down there? You were the greengrocer I walked past going to school in London. Oh, my dear, how beautiful you are, Pauline, with ripe red hair, who shared the religion prize with me at St. Vincent's on Blandford Street. But you may be alive still, and I'm not ready to meet my Maker, to be plucked from the cycle of rebirth. Not yet. I have poems to compose, children to raise, earth to cultivate. Come back later, angel. I have my will to revise. And I'll finish with, this is 10,000 Steps Against the Tyrant. In this case, the tyrant had orange hair, if you remember him. And, but you know, there are other tyrants in the world. But there's two parts to the book, the mother of elections and the mother of pandemics. And the mother, the figure of the mother appears throughout the book, based on my own mother who lives with me, but also something about, you know, that the feeling of that time in 2020 as the campaigns were going on, of that this was really urgent. We had to make this vote. We had to vote. And I was writing some of these poems, most of these poems, during that time. But I'll finish with poems rather from the section on the pandemic, and two poems I said, so I'll finish with these two. Late Night Olive Oil. Let us put the letters and fears and boiling emotions on the page, Mummy. Why did you go to the kitchen stealthily without a word to your sleeping son, without your walker, to find the large bottle of olive oil, to pour it on the table and floor, to fill a small vessel which you meant to carry back to your room as if nobody would notice until you called my name, because you could not negotiate the rest of the way from dining table to bedroom, vessel in hand, without cane or walker. I write to atone for my flailing words, saying, never, never, never again. The kitchen is prohibited. Your mania for oil in the hair is prohibited. The stealthy, mischievous, childish, truant foray into the darkness with a torch in hand, which you forgot on the countertop, all of this is prohibited. Your losing memory and control are prohibited. These words are prohibited. Decline and death are prohibited. And I'll just finish with these 3 verses, 9 lines, a poem called Torch. The flame may seem fragile, small, almost nothing at all, but as you carry it from room to room in the dark, the bobbing, flickering wick lights up mind and heart and gives hope. And the sun is waiting around the corner of morning to come on stage, to rise. Thank you very much. Thank you, Brent. I wanted to show you just one thing, sorry. This is Islenio, which is the new book. And I wanted to show you one other child. Our ancestors did not breed this hair, which I've just become a publisher with another poet, Sarah Marin, and this is our first book. It's an anthology of 6 Muslim women poets, all who studied together and wrote together at MIT. So it's an unusual sort of book born in the pandemic. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Thank you, Indran. Wow, that was great. So we're going to have, if the poets could come up here, just a quick Q&A with the audience if you guys have any questions. So come on up, poets. And I'll have a handheld mic and can move around the audience if for folks who have questions. For whichever one of you guys wants to answer a question, you can just step up to the mic here. Actually, let me move. So let's see. Just be on either side so you're not behind the lectern. There you go. We good? Maybe I'll start things off with a question. So I'm curious if you wrote poetry before you immigrated to the United States, and then how your poetry is different now, or if you didn't write poetry before you moved here, why did you start after you immigrated here? Whoever wants to hop up there.
Well, I did write and read poetry before I came here. It was more about, I don't know, I think also has to do with the age you have. I mean, when I was growing up, you write about different things, the love, and then the question about life, what is this, where are we going, things like that. But yeah, it changed a little bit when I came here, also because you see your country with other eyes, and because you are living also another experience in another country, another language, another culture. So yeah, it changed. Yeah.
Well, actually, in my case, I started writing music like rock, because I was into very heavy metal, like real death metal, black metal, and that's how I started writing that kind of. But I in that aspect, it's the only thing that helps me to don't lose the English, because in Guatemala I'm never speaking English, but listening to music, it helps me a lot, at least to keep to have to hear the voices and try to translate sometimes the songs. That was a big challenge, but I gotta tell you, I started writing like only music, but I was more against the government, because that's the kind of like the songs I used to write more. And then probably we have a pessimistic times because grunge came, and I start to, at the same time, I have a lot of songs actually written in like Nazi, but I never really in those days thought about immigration, because I wasn't thinking about even coming to the United States. Actually, I came here because I have to come, I have some issues there, but it's a family thing. But then I start to notice more the struggles that people see here, and that kinds to give me an I start to see what's going on. I really start to pay attention, because I see people that they have been in the country for years and years, and I was like, are you guys still haven't even fixed anything in your papers or whatever? So I start to to getting a little bit more involved sometimes and have conversations. So, and then probably I start to. That's why I have this other book that I'm working in. I have been working in it for years, but that's a little excerpt that I said at the beginning, talking about immigration, how I feel alienated being in a different country, and that's the book is about, how to be from being Guatemala, coming to the United States, being in different environments, being in New York City, in Washington, because it's different environments and different people. Even I have the chance to, when I'm writing book, there's characters from different countries. So I have to really, the conversation they have to go based on the way they talk. Because even by talking, even when we speak Spanish with somebody, some words means different. And I got in trouble sometimes even trying to say accomplishment for somebody, and it means, for example, in Peru means a bad word. So, it's funny, yes.
Yeah, thank you. I started writing at 14 when I got to the United States. So when I landed in Honolulu, Hawaii, with my parents, my mother and my siblings, and my father had come a few months earlier from London. But I was, so I guess I started writing in America. But I came from a family, my father wrote poetry, and my great uncle was a poet and an editor of a magazine called Poetry London, which was an important magazine during the World War II. The only poetry magazine was publishing at that time in London under the Blitz and so on. So I had this in the sort of around in the family, this idea that poetry was important. And if I started writing it, I wouldn't be denied. I would be given the chance to keep going. And that's what happened. My father and mother were encouraging, and so I didn't have to hide the poems, or like Neruda did, get them burnt or something. And then I kept going from there. I'm writing in English from the beginning, but I do have another language which I've lost, which is Tamil. As a child, I spoke Tamil and Sinhalese also in English, but I stopped using Tamil and Sinhalese when I got to London as an 8-year-old, and that's the big mystery of for me of my life, is why I forgot those languages almost completely. Anyway, I've acquired other languages. Thank you. Hope I answered you.
Thank you. My history is very special for poems or the poetry. I live the 1 and 10 years only in the farm on my father or my family. No visit of the city. I need translate or shipping in the horse. 7 hours I need horse or the city or the farm. For me, it's big surprise is travel of the farm on the city. It's different. The sound, the cars, the smell is very different. I remember every day of the country. My mother half of the books, or the grandfather is original of the Spain. Is have a library in home. My mother reading of any books, history, literature. I like reading of the poet of Federico Garcia Lorca, poet is Spanish. I like of the romancero gitano. My mother reading for me. Next time I reading. I come in of the school in Cajamarca. I declamate.
Read poetry.
Declaim the poems of the Lorca. I am famous in my school of the Lorca. Oh, this is Lorca. Oh, I am very happy. It's the opportunity of the right of the poems. I forget. I study other profession. I understand. I know attention of poems. It's very important in my life. Coming here at United States, I not think coming is circumstance. My wife have a resident. She lived before here. It's coming, okay. I don't like United States. I like Cajamarca City. I know Capital Lima, no like. I come back of Cajamarca. No. Come in. I come in of the live of the Virginia. I look Sterling. Oh my God! I know speak English. I very confused the traffic. I sit down in my home. My wife say, "No, you go of the library." Second home is my library in Sterling. Oh my God! Any books in Spanish? Thank you. United States is the opportunity, the people, is the libraries, is any service in Spanish. I don't need, my English is not as good. I don't need English. If the people, you help me, you need, okay, any people translate. Library is the club of the reading club book. is yes, book club in Spanish. Is the moment reading different books. I comment on the books in Spanish, anything, Peruvian books, Spanish book, anything. My friend Fernand say, "Oh, you good idea. You reading? You write? A little. I have any poems. Is very confused. Is disorder." Fernand dice, "No, computer, you translate, I reading, Fernando reading, you are reading, maybe 6 months the work, I helping for Fernando, is helping for book for me, is my friend editor, is beautiful edition. I say, my orthography no is good. Say, you reading the book, I capture the idea. What's your idea? Is ni cama, ni data, is a poem now. Thank you so much. Thank you for Takoma now.
Impressive. Were there anybody have a question?
Hola, Fernando. I just wanted to say that I really loved your poem about, is it Cartucha, the helper of when people go to the village and, you know, yeah, yeah. And it just made me think about my experiences in South America and in the small villages, the kindness of people to help in any way possible. And I'm hoping that also in the United States, that's something that can bring us all together. Because I think in the rural United States, in the country, es lo mismo. People offer to help, but it was a very lovely poem. Thank you. I have one other question. I actually took your Zoom class on, I don't know, you don't probably remember me, but
Even on Nehru?
yeah, on the route, right.
It's so strange to meet in person.
Right. And you answered my question because I always wondered if you had written poems in Tamil or if you had one book that referred to Sri Lanka.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, I've not written in Tamil, but.
By the way, it was the class on Borges.
Oh, Borges. I'm sorry. Borges. Thank you for. And no, I've not written in Tamil because I've just not used the language since I was a child. But I have written about Sri Lanka a lot. The first book, The Elephants of Reckoning, a book called Uncivil War, which is which I actually have with me today. It's a history, really, of Sri Lankan, of the Civil War, which I call the Uncivil War, which, of course, all civil wars are uncivil. But it's a kind of personal history. I mean, it's not only poems sort of. I tend to write poems that are sometimes journalistic in a way, responding to events as they're happening, and then I write other poems that are more lyrical, and so it's a mix of those. And then I've written a book called The Splintered Face Tsunami Poems, after the tsunami of 2004. And I'm very close to that book. I don't think I have it with me tonight, I'm not sure. But anyway, that book, that was such a tragedy, the tsunami as it hit so many countries, including Sri Lanka. But in my life, my father had passed away earlier that year, and we were gathered at the home the first time after, at the first sort of Christmas. We were growing up in Catholic families, so we were celebrating Christmas at home without our father, and we'd all living through the Civil War in some form or another, which had been going on for many years. And then this news heard on the radio of these people, thousands disappearing from the coastline of Sri Lanka and I just couldn't understand how one place could be attacked, so to speak, by both human tragedy, this war, civil war, human inflicted pain, and then this ecological sort of whip, that came from the tsunami that resulted from the earthquake in I think it was, I can't remember now where the earthquake took place, but the wave literally traveled the whole world. Anyway, a few days after that, and my brother was on the island at the time, and I couldn't get news of him and his family for a few days, scouring the internet, trying to find out where people were, and eventually found out that they were safe and they were not in the but I mean, it's that kind of uncertainty after disaster, and then eventually they started writing poems and one after another, and it's a really tight sort of series of poems about all aspects of that, the environmental aspects of it, the political mistakes, I mean, the human mistakes. I mean, there was, for example, one person watching who fell asleep and did not see the news coming from Hawaii that this wave was traveling. And so if that person had seen that note, it could have, set up a warning system. And of course, many warning systems have been developed since that tsunami. And there are buoys in the oceans now that did not exist before to protect or to warn against future tsunamis. But anyway, so all those three books, The Elephants of Reckoning, Splintered Face, Tsunami Poems, and Uncivil War. And I think Migrant States too has quite a bit of Sri Lanka in it, and this book, Coconuts on Mars. So Sri Lanka is constantly there, but I write about other places as well. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Are there any other questions? All right. Well, thank you so much. So the poets are going to have some of their books for sale out in the atrium, or if you just want to stop and chat. And we also have our sign-up sheet for our e-newsletter if you want to know about our future events. And so I'd like to thank our poets again, and thank you all for coming. Have a good night.